Every organization has a hidden layer of intelligence, and you can't find it in your spreadsheets or your manuals. It's the institutional knowledge that's in the heads of your employees. It's the little nuances of human conversation and the context behind your biggest wins and losses. This is your proprietary qualitative knowledge, and organizing it creates a moat that your competitors cannot copy. Today, you're going to learn about a proprietary qualitative knowledge base. What this is it's a structured system that's designed to capture your organization's unique intelligence and collective memory and make it searchable for machine use. Here's our agenda. We'll look at the risks of leaking qualitative value, 4 golden opportunities to surface it, how it gets captured, and then we're going to give you some bonus resources to get you started. We start today with some causes of enterprise value leak. First is that knowledge often lives in people's heads. There is no formal system to capture it. So what happens whenever an expert in your company is unavailable, or worse, they leave the company? Well, all of that expertise walks right out the door with them. And whenever investors like private equity or M&A buyers are looking at a business where their secret sauce is all stuck in the founder's head, well, they see that as high risk because they're going to pay less for a company if all the value is tied to just one human. Also, AI remains generic and shallow. It can only generate the same generic advice that it gives to your competitors, and therefore enterprise value erodes over time. But there's a bigger consequence for you as a leader. What if every time one of your employees goes out and uses AI, they're building somebody else's asset with your information? Take a look at this clip from Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella.
The topic that's least talked about, but I feel will be most talked about in this calendar year, will be the sovereignty of a firm. Just imagine, if your firm, you're not able to embed the tacit knowledge of the firm in a set of weights in a model that you control, by definition, you have no sovereignty. That means you're leaking enterprise value to some model company somewhere. In fact, it's sort of fascinating that nobody's talking about that, right?
So you're renting the reasoning, but if you don't own the knowledge that guides it, then you're transferring your competitive advantage to the model provider without even realizing it. You're effectively using your firm's logic and your expertise to train an AI that's making somebody else's business smarter, and we don't want to do that. Proprietary knowledge bases can be used in 2 ways. First is internal operations. So for example, we worked with a plumbing company and they service like 3,000 plus homes a year. And through many years of experience, they had all these unwritten rules of the plumbing business, like which specific subdivisions flood whenever it rains, or which specific installers can handle 5 to 6 slabs in a day while others are slower. And so they built all of this wisdom into their system. So if a new hire, let's say, tried to schedule a job during a storm, the AI would flag that. It also knew not to treat all of their crews equally whenever making the schedule. So this set them up for a multi-state expansion by taking all sorts of really complex variables out of the heads of the experts and codifying that in a way that AI could read. Now, the second way that you can use it is with a productized offer. So that is whenever AI is your product or the service that you sell. So an example of this is we worked with a craft cocktail business and they had their own James Beard award-winning books about cocktails. They wanted to build a customer-facing AI chatbot that would be embedded directly into their website that customers could use to learn drink recipes. And one thing that was important to them was that these recipes, they didn't want them to be robotic sounding. They wanted them to have the actual personality and voice of a real bartender. So they said, look, whenever somebody orders a drink, a real bartender can describe the flavor profile, and they use these warm and poetic words to give the context of how that drink tastes. They could give the history of it. They could talk about the experience of the drink, like a smoky and funky mezcal. And so what they did was they trained AI not just on a bunch of recipes, but on the specific writing style of their cocktail books. Okay, so whether you use it internally in your product itself or in your operations, a PQKB is transforming this raw experience into a machine-readable format that the AI model can then reason with instead of just relying on public information. Here's what changes once you build one. All of our documents used to be just dead data because they were stored in files and folders. They couldn't reason, they couldn't talk back. But what changes now is that we have AI's ability to remix that qualitative data, and we can now put our knowledge to work in ways that we could never before. These three categories represent the hierarchy of knowledge. There's explicit knowledge, which is the know what. That's found in your manuals and in your documents. It's usually structured information that anybody can easily read, okay? Tacit knowledge is the know how. It's locked up in an expert's head. We all have some unwritten intuition, like, the certain sales guy on your team who knows exactly what questions to ask whenever he's closing a deal. That stuff is not written down. It's like whenever you're able to cook a meal without a recipe, without measuring anything, because you just naturally know how to do it by heart. Now, tribal knowledge is similar, but that is a group secret. So it's the shared tips and shortcuts and workarounds that a specific team has figured out to get the job done. Tribal and tacit are the two most valuable categories for AI because it's ungoogleable. It differs from a standard SOP because the SOPs are describing the what, while the tacit knowledge explains the why and the how. So a few examples of this would be rules of thumb, mental shortcuts like the plumbing company that I was talking about. So if the slab pour is over 2,000 square feet, add an extra hour to the estimate. This is also judgment calls and decision logic, edge cases and exceptions. So the bartending product I mentioned, users could input a random list of ingredients that they had at home. They could say, I have rum, lemons, and cinnamon, and the AI would analyze the flavor profiles against the root logic and suggest a viable cocktail. Why? Because it's been trained on the company's expertise on flavor profiles, okay? Also, troubleshooting instincts and contextual and relationship knowledge. This would be like knowing the politics of a decision. So, for example, don't send that report to the VP until the director has seen it first. So the PQKB is the curated knowledge captured as a single source of truth. Think about this like the collective memory of your company, and it's made searchable. It is part of that data and knowledge layer that we talked about. But even though it's full of all that rich human insights and, customer stories and all your team's hard-won expertise, that's only half the picture. The other half is, of course, all the structured data, the quantitative data that's in your sales tools, in your operational metrics. And the power is whenever you fuse those two worlds together. So you're integrating your PQKB with external data. That is what becomes the fuel for smarter AI. Because your competitors can go out and they can buy the same old market research reports, but they can't access what your team has built in terms of expertise. And they also can't access the specific reasons why your best customers are choosing you. You have 4 golden opportunities to start capturing qualitative knowledge. First is role-specific expertise. This is how people do the work. So how your top performers approach their roles. What if you could record the behaviors that each person does exceptionally well? Their signature moves, the habits of whatever success looks like in that person's job. And then over time, what if that could become a bank that other employees could learn from? I think about organizations that have a lot of people who do the exact same thing, at least on paper. So think of an airline that has thousands of flight attendants, or a school district that has thousands of teachers, a retail store with associates that are scattered across regions. Even though all those people have the same title on paper, everybody develops their own tricks and their own ways of solving problems. And because they're busy doing the work all day, they rarely have time to sit down with their colleagues and share what they learned. And so this captures and surfaces the best knowledge from each person so that other people can benefit. Second is collective stakeholder feedback. So what a group thinks and feels about something. This, I want you to think about it like the modern day replacement for a survey. It is a focus group, but on steroids. So think about any question or problem or idea that you are curious about, something you want to research, something you wish that you could ask your staff, your customers, or the market. And again, instead of generic research, you can synthesize all of their voices with the help of AI to reveal patterns. Patterns like their satisfaction, their input, their preferences about something that you're curious about. The third opportunity to capture qualitative knowledge is operational DNA. So how your business runs. So this is the company specific intelligence. Again, it's the stuff that nobody else can replicate. The why behind how your work gets done, your processes, your culture, your strategy, and so forth. And last, number 4 is personalized second brains. So this one is curating a memory bank, and this can either be for just one individual person or a small team. So this is the place where they store their meeting transcripts, their notes from the field, lessons learned, client relationships. It's all that fine-grained detail that helps to keep a team in sync. So how do you source your knowledge? Well, your primary sources are, of course, the people who live and breathe your business every day, and the raw material for your PQKB comes from their direct experience. Now, this could be field notes, subject matter reports like white papers or debriefs, meeting transcripts, annotated artifacts like if you have a proposal or some marketing materials with comments explaining the why behind those. But the most powerful way is stakeholder interviews, especially whenever you do AI-powered interviews. The challenge, of course, is scale, right? Because you can't clone yourself and go sit in 500 different meetings. That's where Dactic comes in. So Dactic, I want to tell you about a tool that we built to solve this problem. It's an AI interviewer tool. And so let me just give you a quick walkthrough of the workflow. With something like Dactic, you would start by defining whatever that topic or theme is that you want to research. And then Dactic will go out and interview your entire organization simultaneously. It uses an AI interviewer that speaks to that person in natural language. So for the person on your team, it feels just like they're having a video chat. They don't have to fill out any forms or type anything, they just talk. But it doesn't just ask some static survey questions, it listens and adapts. So for example, let's say an employee says, okay, our shipping process is broken. Dactic is going to pivot and it'll ask something like, well, can you walk me through the specific step where it breaks? So it's digging for more of the why in real time. And then finally, when it's done conducting that interview and all of the interviews, it synthesizes all of those, it could be thousands of scattered conversations, synthesizing it all together into a structured report that can then feed directly into your proprietary qualitative knowledge base. The best part is that the secret information that's given is all kept confidential instead of having to go upload that into an AI public model for synthesis. Now, if you don't have a tool like Dactic and you want to do this the old-fashioned way by recording your own interviews, I'm going to give you a few helpful resources in your learning guide. So one of them is the handout called Structuring Data for a Machine. This is just a quick overview of how to reformat and tag your text transcripts after you've conducted the interviews in a way that AI can use them. Also, we have a safety document about how to redact some of that sensitive company info before going and uploading that into a public AI model if you're going to have that analyzed by an LLM. And speaking of supporting materials, a couple more that we created for you. Check out Fostering a Culture of Proprietary Knowledge Capture. What this does is it goes over the type of environment that you need, the type of culture you have to create for your people to feel comfortable sharing their experience in a recorded format. And to help you put today's learning into action and actually start planning to get your PQKB off the ground, I want you to see the handout called Mapping Your Proprietary Qualitative Knowledge Base Gold Mines. All right, so we've covered a lot of ground today. And before you move on to the next section, here is your discussion activity. Please find the comment button and leave a comment below this video. What I want you to respond to is first, what is the most insightful thing that you learned about the current age of proprietary knowledge? And then secondly, tell us what is one gold mine of qualitative information that you would like to capture and integrate into your business. And also, don't just stop there. I want you to explain what would be different once this insight is operating inside your AI system. I'll see you in the next lesson.